In this video, I'll be looking at this Godox IT30 Pro iFlash camera flash. They did send this in before review, but as always, that does not affect our opinion in any way. We'll just go ahead and open the box here. It looks like it comes with a diffuser that it was not in the box for some reason. It was in just like the main packaging, but not sure if there's another one inside or if it just didn't fit in the box or what. But we do have kind of a diffuser here already. We'll just go ahead and see what else we get here. Looks like we have the user manual. Then there's the flash itself. Pretty nice weight to it and looks pretty good, but we'll look more at that in a second. Underneath here we have looks like kind of a bag for it, some silica beads, always good, and then USB-A to USB-C cable for charging it, as well as a felt bag for storing and transporting this with a nice little kind of orange Godox logo there. So it does look like the diffuser did not fit in the box, which is interesting, but you can go ahead and kind of snap this on when you want to. So it is interesting. It looks like it would almost fit in here, but didn't. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but we do also have this diffuser as well included. So looking closer to the flash itself, we do have a good amount of controls. You can see on the back here we have a nice little display, which is going to show all your settings, the battery level, and all that. We also have 3 different buttons here. There's a set button, a menu button, and then a power button, as well as a button to manually fire the flash. Then on the side here, we do have a normal or wide button. So you can see if you move this, it will actually adjust the kind of lens here on the front of the flash. So again, this is going to be kind of a normal flash, or if you want it to be more wide, you can set it to wide mode. So nice to be able to control all of that manually. Finally, on the top here, we just have another dial for making adjustments. And then on the bottom, we have the actual hot shoe. You can push this button to release the cover, and that will expose all the connections, which will actually connect to the camera, and of course do all the talking for deciding the exposure levels and all that. It's nice that we also have a rubber foot here to prevent your camera from getting scratched when it's sitting on there. Then finally on this side we have a port for the sync cord, as well as a USB-C port for charging and updating the device. That's just a quick overview of the flash. We'll go ahead and get it all set up on a camera and then show you what it looks like. Alright, so we have the flash on our Sony a7 III. This is the IT30 Pro S model, so it's going to be specifically for Sony cameras, but they do offer it for other models as well, so if you wanted to use it with a different model camera, you just want to make sure you get the right flash that's going to be compatible with that. But again, this is the Sony version, so we're going to be using it on our a7 III today. When it's on the camera, I think you can get a pretty good idea of the actual size of it. It was already in the palm of my hand, so you could kind of see, but I think it really shows just how compact of a flash it is. It really looks like it belongs on the camera, in my opinion. So it's definitely a very pocketable, transportable flash, and it's still going to pack a very big punch for the size of it. So that's definitely very impressive, and I think that's the main takeaway you want to get from this before I get further into the details. But it is a very, very compact, as you can see. We'll just go ahead and show you the different settings and all that. So we'll turn on the camera first. Then we just turn this on as easy as that. Rotate the dial. So now that it's on, we do have control over the exposure. You can see we do have the camera mode here. It's also on the high sync setting. We can turn that off if you want to. But if you want to sync at a very high shutter speed, then you're able to turn that on. I'm shooting in aperture priority, so you usually want to have that on because you're going to be potentially shooting at high shutter speeds, but it will still sync up to 1/8000th of a second if you have that mode on. So that's pretty cool. But in terms of the basic adjustments, you can either push everything by actually tapping the plus or minus button on the screen. You can slide this dial here like that, or you can actually just kind of swipe like this as well, which is pretty cool. So very easy to adjust the different exposure levels kind of depending on how you want to do it. And as I mentioned earlier, we have the different modes here. So if you want it to be kind of on a farther away subject, it's going to be in the normal mode. Or if you want it to be more diffused and kind of covering a wider area, you're able to switch it to that wide mode, and that will be reflected on the screen here as well. It says wide here, and then down to normal. So definitely very customizable in that sense. And we do have 3 different modes as well. Right now it's in TTO, which is essentially just kind of an automatic mode. It's going to talk to the camera, make sure the exposure is all correct based on the camera settings, and essentially you're using the flash to kind of expose the subject and background properly. But we can also change the different modes here. If you want it in manual mode, you can fully customize the brightness of the flash, and it will just kind of fire at whatever setting you're setting it to, potentially overexposing or underexposing, but you're able to get a bit more creative with it in that sense. And finally, we also have a multi-mode, which is pretty cool as well. So this is going to be useful if you're making a long exposure or something similar, where you kind of have the subject potentially in the photo multiple times, and you want to fire that flash multiple times and expose them across the whole photo. As you can see, we can still adjust the overall power of the flash, but we can also adjust the amount of times it fires and how frequently. So that's definitely very cool as well to have that feature. And of course, within the manual mode as well, you're able to still adjust the brightness and all that. So again, it will just kind of depend on what you're going for. I think most people will just use it in TTL. You can still, of course, make it brighter or less bright, but it will just kind of work with the camera to make sure your photos still come out pretty decently. So definitely pretty nice to have all that functionality. But up here, we also have a couple different modes. So you can use this as a master or a slave as well. That's all with this little button. So right now we have it on the kind of normal mode here, but if we push this once, it will be on a master mode. So you can actually connect a different Godox flash to this, and then when you take a photo, it will trigger that flash as well. You can have this one off and just fire from the other flash, or have them both fire. It's kind of up to you. So if you're shooting in like a proper studio and you have a bunch of different flashes all around, or even if you just have kind of one handheld and you want it to be higher up or something like that, you can have it all be triggered from this one little unit here, which is pretty cool. Having a built-in flash and that capacity all in this one little unit is definitely very cool. There's another setting to also make this as a slave unit, so if you want it to be triggered by other Godox flashes, you're able to do that as well. So definitely kind of all connected, which is pretty cool. and we can push this button to go ahead and configure the channel ID and all that. You just want to make sure it's the same as your other flashes and then pair them, but definitely a very easy process to connect this with other Godox flashes. Another setting we have here is just to lock it. So if you wanted to avoid your settings being changed, you can just push that button. Then you will have to hold the screen for 2 seconds to unlock it. But I think that is the majority of the settings. There's definitely a lot you can kind of play around with. Again, I think most people will just be using on the kind of TTL mode. You can go ahead and set your exposure and do all that. And we're just going to get a pretty good photo every time. If you want to really play with it, you can, but I think that's going to be very good enough for most people. Especially for such a compact flash, it definitely has a lot of functionality that I'm very impressed with. I would say the one potential downside I could think of is because it is kind of low like this, you might have some shadows created by your lens depending on where you're shooting, but they do actually sell an attachment if you wanted to raise the flash, you're able to do that as well. So they kind of thought of everything. There's not really much I could complain about, honestly. It's a surprisingly powerful flash. It has a lot of functionality for controlling other flashes. It has great battery life. You can have up to 560 full power shots out of this, which is, I think, pretty crazy for something of this size. And in case you somehow use all those, it is rechargeable via USB-C, so you can just kind of power it up with a power bank or something like that. So definitely very, very versatile. I think it's a great tool if you're wanting to just kind of have a flash in your pocket, pull it out when you need it, that sort of thing. And just considering the size and versatility, I would say it's a great tool to have in your bag.